Hey, what's up you guys? My name is Bella and I saw Fantastic Beasts Crimes of Grindelwald yesterday and it was a lot. So much. I have so many questions now, as does Harry. This is Harry, guys, by the way. I'm just gonna go get him a treat. Yeah. Okay. Oh! There's so much. Okay, so they go back to Hogwarts. This is so many spoilers, by the way. If you don't want a spoiler alert, don't watch this, or do. I always read Wikipedias before I go watch a movie so I know exactly what's gonna happen, and it's a lot. It's summer here, I'm gonna stop this. Okay, so it's a Gryffindor. I'm gonna stop. Okay, so where shall we start? I wrote out all my notes last night. I don't know if you guys can see this, but this was my brain just exploding while I was trying to go to sleep. The Ravenclaw and me decided that we should study instead of going to sleep. So I was still up at like 3 or 4 AM, which is insane. Okay, so what have we got? So we see a lot of Raven imagery in the film. I kind of thought this was because Newt, clearly a Hufflepuff, they show a couple of scenes with like Gryffindors in the film. For instance, we get to see a McLaggen, which is quite interesting just because I don't know if you remember the Slug Club and the whole dinner scene with Cormac McLaggen, and in the books and in the film he talks about he's got this uncle who had some great uses for a potion. He'd like come up with a few things, so he was a great man. And Professor Slughorn tries to ask Cormac, you know, how his uncle is doing, and he goes, oh, I don't know, my dad thinks he's a bit of a git, blah blah blah, and you're like, Cormac, that's the only reason you're there, you're not special. Okay, so he's there, he's in a Gryffindor robe. Leta Lestrange, we finally get to meet her. She's a Slytherin, and from what I presume, I don't think Newt's brother's a Hufflepuff unless he's like a Grifflepuff or a Slitherpuff or like a Ravenpuff. If he's kind of got that thing, you know, Hermione was supposed to be in Ravenclaw but ended up in Gryffindor, and Harry was supposed to be, no, Slytherin, no, Slytherin. That. Okay, so Ravens are associated with the Lestrange family. Okay, so Credence is thought to be Corvus Lestrange, the 4th, 5th, 6th, I can't remember, there's a lot of Corvuses in a row. Leta Lestrange's father is called Corvus Lestrange, his father is called Corvus Lestrange, her grandfather is called Corvus Lestrange, her great-grandfather is called Corvus Lestrange. I think it goes further back, but I don't care enough to look anymore. Corvus is a horrible person anyway. He supposedly is now Credence's father. Credence is another Corvus Lestrange. Okay, so we see that Leta had a little baby brother, a half-brother. This is where it gets tricky. Okay, so Leta's father, Corvus, horrible man, goes into a house, bewitches a witch, takes her away from her loving husband, and then has Leta. And then when Leta's born, he's back! Come here. Okay, so when Leta's born, Corvus is of course disappointed because she's a female, and in the Lestrange family they honour males, so males are on the family tree, whereas females, the little flowers, they don't get their name on there, they're just associated with beauty, and that's it, which is horrible. First of all, how is Leta okay because she was born out of a potion and she was never loved, and that's the whole Voldemort thing? Okay. So Leta's mother, who had been in love with another man who had been stolen from her husband, they have a son together. This son grows up, for some reason he has a storyline in this. He kind of thinks he's got a Harry Voldemort situation where like, well, one can live and the other cannot survive, blah blah blah. Not really. As we find out, Leta had this little half-brother and she grew up with him. He's this little baby, and when they find out that Leta's half-brother wants to kill Corvus, little baby Corvus, they're sent away to America on a ship. This is also another weird plot point. I know Newt travels around on ships, but can't they just like apparate and fly and what? Okay. So Leta goes away on this ship with baby Corvus and their nurse, who is a half-human, half-elf. They only say she's a half-elf, but like, she's got human features, she doesn't have the big nose, she doesn't have the big ears, like, someone got with a house elf or an elf. Bit weird, but it clearly happened. So she's got some magic. The weird thing is too, before this elf dies, Credence sees the elf that supposedly had baby Corvus on this ship, and they go with the elf because she has a little bit of magic, so she can't really be traced. Whereas if it was with a wizard, it would be easy to trace, apparently. This ship, somehow, I don't know if it's a magical-filled ship or if it's a muggle ship. I can't tell at this point, but somehow this ship goes down. Leta is annoyed that Corvus is crying, so she switches him with another baby. So she switches the babies around, and somehow she manages to pick up another baby that is also magical. So if this is a muggle ship, which it presumably must be, because they say they go with the elf because there's not much magic there, so why would they surround themselves with magic where traces can be followed? What? So there's another witch somehow on this ship, she gets a baby switched around, and then the ship goes down, no one can magic their way out, so I guess it was a muggle ship, but somehow switches with the only magic baby in there. Okay. So, there are 2 lifeboats, one of them sinks. The real Corvus Lestrange, please stand up, is on that boat, whereas this new baby is on this other little lifeboat. This new baby is Credence. So Credence is separated from his real mother because of Leta. Leta feels terrible. We see her boggart is her brother sinking into the ocean, which is horrific. So more than likely Corvus Lestrange died, or Corvus Lestrange Junior died. So somehow Credence is discovered not to be who they think he is, which is just getting so weird now. Harry can't believe it. Somehow Credence isn't who he's supposed to be, or who they think he is, so their brother no longer has to kill him because he's already dead, and it shows on the family tree that he's dead, so safe to say we can probably wipe him off. So somehow they find out Credence is not theirs, and he ends up with the horrible woman he ends up with. I'm just going to check her name. Okay, so Mary Lou Barebone adopted him. Something that I don't quite get is Mary Lou Barebone says to Credence, right before she dies, she says, "I met your mother, she was a wicked woman." But Credence's mother, actual mother, is supposed to be dead. Leta Lestrange's stepmother seems like a nice lady, and Leta Lestrange's mother also seems like a nice lady. Okay, so then we get another plot twist. Throughout the movie, Leta has had ravens come to her, little raven chicks, because her family attracts them, so she looks after them, and Credence also seems to have these little ravens, and so you see that and you go, ah. But then you kind of notice the little birds that Credence have, they don't have massive beaks like the ravens do. So supposedly this is a phoenix, and we hear Dumbledore say that his family attracts phoenixes. So somehow Credence has a phoenix. He also mentions that his uncle had a phoenix who, when he died, flew away, just kind of like how Fawkes did at the end of the 6th movie, when he did his cute little song and then left. Which is interesting. So Dumbledore has just mentioned having an uncle? Or it might have been a great uncle. And it has to be on his father's side because his mother was muggle-born. So that's also really intriguing. So Grindelwald says that Credence is actually Aurelius Dumbledore. Now that's interesting because everyone in Dumbledore's family, or all of his siblings, they all start with an A. So Aurelius also starts with an A. So we've got Albus, we've got Aberforth, we've got Ariana, and now we've got Aurelius. But, interestingly, okay, so Credence Aurelius is presumed to have been born around 1907 or 1908, whereas Kendra Dumbledore died in 1899, as did Ariana. Now, even though Kendra doesn't actually technically carry the last name, although she would have died with it, that can't be her genetics that encouraged the phoenix to come to Aurelius. So there is an interesting thing in the Tales of Beedle the Bard where Dumbledore mentions having a maiden aunt called Honoria who married a man with a hairy heart. Saying maiden means it must be Kendra Dumbledore's sister, so Honoria isn't a Dumbledore, which is weird. And also that she's magical. If you come from a muggle-born family, you can still have 2 siblings with magical abilities. See the Creevy brothers. There's a few things that could have happened. Percival Dumbledore in Azkaban could have somehow gotten with someone, but like, maybe he got with a Dementor and that's how the whole like obscurest thing happened. I know the Dementors look like rags, but that doesn't mean hanky-panky happened. So what does this mean? Maybe on Percival's side of the family, maybe they kept up that letter thing, so maybe he had brothers and sisters starting with the letter P, so that's weird. I've looked on Pottermore and Harry Potter Wikia, and although we know the Dumbledores are an old family, and Dumbledore has mentioned this himself throughout the Harry Potter books, it's not very often he mentions direct relations. So how is Aurelius related to them? It doesn't seem to be a similar name. I know Aberforth and Elvis kind of sound similar, and you put Ariana and Aurelius together and kind of, but Aurelius sounds more like a black family name. Sirius Regulus Aurelius. But the Phoenix came to him and we left the movie on that note, so there must be something to it. We're not going to know for another 2 years, but if you have any ideas as to how Aurelius is related to the family, leave it down below. My mind is sufficiently blown for today. Some people were saying, I looked online, they were saying that they heard Grindelwald say that this was Dumbledore's other brother. I personally didn't hear that, but if you did, let me know. We're gonna have to wait a couple of months before it's out on DVD to closely examine this, although I think I'm gonna go see the movie again in a couple of days. Yeah, any theories at all, please link me down below. I would love to hear them. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.